What's going on, everyone? Greatest Hits here. I'm back yet again for part 4 of reassembly of the 5.3 iron block LS engine, and I am super happy right now because I pretty much got everything that I needed. Like I said, I pretty much got just about everything. I got the cam, I got the timing set, I got the LS1 low profile oil pan because the truck oil pan unfortunately will not work. It will work for my car, for the Firebird, but you run the risk of scraping the oil pan because it's so deep. What we're going to do first is put the rear main seal on here. And speaking of rear main seal, I got the gaskets and everything for it. I had the seal. See right there? Yeah, I took a flat tip screwdriver and I pried it out because I was anxious to put everything together and put the seal on and then put it in the back of the block, but that was not going to work because I would have basically had to tear this thing up in order for the rear main seal to go on there. Took it back out because I screwed up. That's just part of it when you're building an LS engine for the first time. So I can now put the rear main cover on the back of the engine. Before I do that, I want to show you guys this right here. This is all the specifications for the Stage 2 Turbo Cam from BTR, right? You have a LSA at 113. That's basically degreeing the timing or whatever. We're not going to do that, just as long as the timing set is dot to dot to the crank gear here, whatever you call it. And that's pretty much it. So there's all the specifications. I mean, this is going to be a killer engine and it's going to make some great power, but it's not like top secret type stuff. Like, everybody's doing this pretty much. It's just some engine LS builds are a little bit different than others. That's all it is. Okay. The cam is what helps the engine breathe and make a lot of power at the top end. Like I said, BTR. Right here, Stage 2 cam. There's the duration and the valve lift. It's pretty freaking high. So I'm going to have a pretty dang good turbo to use all of the cam. I have the engine right side up. I'm just going to go ahead and do it this way. I got the gasket here sitting on the cover. And pretty simple, just lay it in there and hope for the best. Hopefully everything gets lined up the way it's supposed to. Okay. Now, put one of these bolts in at least. So you want these bolts to be torqued to 18 foot-pounds. Oh, that's the wrong bag. Sorry, guys. But probably not going to be able to torque all of these bolts just because, again, it's on the stand. So I'm just going to snug them tight, and when I get done putting everything together on this motor, I think then I'm going to go ahead and torque these bolts down. And I ain't got to show you that because it's pretty easy to do. It's easy to do, and it's pretty much the same concept as the front main seal. You're torquing them in a kind of star pattern. That way the cover sits in there real nice and flush and lined up and everything. So the sucky part about this is I gotta get a new rear main seal. Oh well, it is what it is. Sorry guys, it's actually a 12mm bolt. So I'm just gonna kind of snug these on here. Not real tight yet. I also bought the new rear main seal today from O'Reilly's, and it's on there now. I kind of scraped this rear cover a little bit, but nobody really is going to see anything back here or up here because the intake is going to be on top of it. I don't think I'm going to spray paint this blue. If I feel like it, I might, but I don't see a sense of doing that, in my opinion, if nobody's going to see it. But anyhow, yeah, it's on, and I actually took 2 long extensions and pried up against this stand here and took my thumb and held the bottom end of the seal to push it all the way on there flush. And obviously you can't really see that well, but as long as the seal is flush all the way around all the way around the rear main cover, then it's pretty much good. Ooh, guys, I'm so hyped. I'm so hyped right now. Yes, sir. Sheesh. Hell yeah. Alright, let's put this box to the side. It's already kind of oil on here. Again, the specs on here. How cool that is. Nice, nice. So obviously, this is the back of the cam, so it's going to be facing in first. Right here, let's take this and just run along journals for the first half. As you can see there, and I take my hand and just rub around it. I can really see cam going in. Okay, we got about halfway. Put the rest of the oil on here on this cam. We're gonna sit it all the way in there. Sometimes you gotta manhandle this thing because it kind of drops in the journals. I can kind of see it on the other side. So you're gonna have to be careful when you put the cam in. You'll nick the journals really bad, or not the journals, the cam bearings, sorry. You'll end up hitting the cam bearing really bad and causing it to move out of the bore of the cam. So just be careful when you put this cam in so you don't mess up the cam bearing. Okay, it's time to put the cam plate on here. Okay, so here's the cam plate here. It faces inward into the front of the camshaft. I got this from Mail. I'm probably butchering the name, but you know. I'm using the stock bolts. I'm pretty much using the stock bolts on everything except for the cylinder heads. The cylinder heads are going to hold this block together, and it's going to make some really good amount of boost. But everything else is just going to be stock bolts. Stock bolts can hold just as much, almost just as much, including the crank bolt too, because why not? I mean, I've seen guys with the stock crank bolt, and they're making 800-900 horsepower, maybe even 1,000. Simply just place this on here like that. Place the bolt on here and torque these. Yep. These bolts are torqued to 18 foot-pounds, and that is it. So I think I have a torque wrench that can do 18 foot-pounds. Okay, I'm going to torque these in a sort of star pattern, so snug them up. Okay, so it clicks. One more time, just for insurance purposes. Okay, we're done with that. So you basically sit this on here. If you can see the dot, I don't know if you can. Yes, you can. You can see that. This dot, again, is supposed to line up to this dot on the bottom. If you don't have that timed up properly, well, you're in trouble, because it's going to misfire and it's going to do all sorts of stuff. So yeah, please do that. I'm going to put a little bit of assembly lube on the back of the sprocket. That way because you don't want a dry startup anywhere on that engine. Is aligned perfectly. So it's not easy. There we go. Uh-oh. Come on now. Putting the timing set on is ridiculous. Okay. And it's on. Now put the bolts in. That way it doesn't move. The sprocket bolts will be 26 foot-pounds. Uh-oh. Out of alignment there. There we go. All right, that's it for that. Now we can put the front cover on. it down. What else do you need to get? So this is the Chevrolet High Performance High Volume Standard Pressure Oil Pump here. You can look up that number. Alright, when you put this oil pump on, just slide it on there. Just try and line it up the best you can. Because that's, hold on. Just pump it in there like that. Line it up really good. Set your bolts in. Alright, the camera died, but real quick, you want to lock tight all these bolts, the sprocket bolt, the cam plate bolt, and the oil pump bolt. It was the next day. I didn't get the chance to finish up. Friday, so I'm gonna go ahead and put the windage tray on here. This is actually a windage tray from the truck engine with the truck pan when I first bought the LS engine. And as you can see, maybe it says rear, so you want this to be facing the rear. Also, since this is a windage tray for a truck pan, you're gonna have to cut this gaping hole out for the F-body pickup tube for the F-body oil pan or low profile oil pan. You can buy a factory low profile windage tray for the pan so that the pickup tube will fit, but I just bought the pickup tube and I bought the pan to save some money, and I already got a windage tray and all I had to do was cut. So now it should fit on there perfectly, and I can put everything else on. So set this on here like that. Sit it down. Make sure you put either some grease or some assembly lube or oil, anything that's lubricated on the O-rings. That way it sits in there perfectly and it doesn't get bind up or chewed up whenever you just slip it in there, because you might have a leak in the future. So it is as easy as it looks. Just sit it in there. Make sure that seal pops into the oil pump there. Damn. All right, that's about all I'm gonna do for the timing cover. I'm not gonna tighten them all up until I get the harmonic balancer on here. I might use the stock one. It can handle plenty of power, but long term, like maybe over 900, 1,000 or so, you may run into some issues. So I might get a new balancer, but we'll see. I just have this one just laying around that I got off of the other motor before it got cracked. Alright, so this is how I have the water pump gaskets on with 2 bolts. I don't do all of them. That's just going to be a nightmare, in my opinion, just because when you have all 3 bolts on both sides and you go and try and thread all of them in, you just can't. You have 2 hands and you're trying to hold the water pump while you're trying to thread all the bolts in at the same time. So this is the best way to do it. It doesn't matter how you do it, just have 2 bolts on, or 1 bolt on each side, 2 in total, and then you just throw this thing on here. That's how I've always done it whenever I'm working on LS's, well, at work or building an LS. And that one came off. Nice. So I pretty much got almost every sensor on this engine, including the intake manifold. I already put the crank sensor, which is on the right side on the engine towards the bottom. This is the cam sensor that I have in my hand. And then in my other hand, I have the oil pressure sensor. So I put a little bit of oil on here. Just thread this thing in here. Alright, now we're going to put the oil pressure sensor on. And we're kind of doing this early, but, you know, better early than late, I guess. Let's tighten all these down. I don't have my oil sensor socket to fit over this to tighten it up, but I just have it hand tightened for now, and I'm going to tighten it up later once I get it. I'm going to move on to the valley cover. Take this off. Okay, so these are the grommets here that go onto the valley, and they stick onto the thing, or whatever you call it, that hold the knock sensors in. Plus, this keeps from oil coming through the valley and having a potential leak. Okay, so I already got the grommet on this side on here flush onto the valley. You want to do the same thing on the other side, obviously. Take a dead blow hammer and hit around it for it to fit on there flush. And that's pretty much it. And then sit the valley in there once you have the gasket on. Okay guys, so it's been a few days. I got some LS7 lifters in here. I'm about to pour some oil. Not the royal purple. I already have oil back over there. I forgot that I had a quart sitting in the garage and I bought the royal purple, so I'm just going to leave that to the side. This is the BTR Deflon LS7 lifters. These things will hold a lot of power. Unlike your typical LS1 lifter or anything that's not a LS7, LS9, or any other lifter. These lifters are phenomenal. And yeah, I'm going to sit these in oil. They're already oiled in the bag, but I've been told time and time again to just dump them in oil, submerge them basically, and let it sit for a couple hours, maybe a whole day, before you throw them into the motor. So yeah, and those are the bores in there for the lifters. Let me show you real quick kind of what the lifter looks like. You got this little, I don't even know what it's called, but it's to hold the lifter, hydraulic lifter in here. So roller here. That's how you know it's a roller lifter, because it has bearings inside of it, and guess what? It rolls. So if somebody says, oh, I got a LS motor with solid lifters or something, they don't have this roller. It's just straight solid. Now, I don't really know anything at all about solid lifters. So yeah. Anyhow, let's throw some oil in here. I got this 5W30 Valvoline right here, and hopefully that will be enough. I don't know. It may not be enough. And it is enough. Yes, sir. Well, $10, $12 down the drain. Sort of, because, you know, I'm using the oil for the lifters. But we're going to cover this up, and we're going to let it sit for a while. As you can see, it's bubbling out because it still has air. Has like air pockets inside the hydraulic lifters and whatnot. So yep. All right, so it's time to put the lifters in. I have them soaked in oil in here. I already put the other lifters on the other side of the motor on with the lifter trays and torqued them. I believe they're 10 or 11 foot-pounds. I gotta double check. These bolts here are 18 foot-pounds on the valley cover. But anyways, here are the lifters here, the rest of them that are sitting in here. Right here, that hole. You want that hole right there to be towards the inside here. So like when I sit this lifter in, you want that hole that's right there to be facing inward. And same thing with the lifter that I'm going to be sitting in here. It's going to look like this, obviously. The holes are on the inside facing each other. And then you're going to simply sit this in here. And you're going to actually slowly sit this in here so you don't damage the lifters or anything. And just kind of shake the lifter tray around so it can sit in there good. And there you go. Make sure it's on there flush. hand tighten them first. Now you can get a little technical and torque these. Some guys just tighten them up really good by hand and they're not going to move from there. Okay, so I painted this harmonic balancer pulley here. It looks pretty good. Put some assembly lube back here. Make sure it's lubed up pretty good. But all you want to do, like I said before, is put lube on the outer edge of this pulley on the back, not the inside. You want it to go and dry on the inside because it's going to slide onto the front snout of the crankshaft. So the reason why you want oil around here is so that you don't tear up the seal when you go and bolt it on there, because if it's on there dry, you're going to rip this up and it's going to start leaking out, and guess what you got to do? Take the balancer back off, replace this seal, and place it back on there. So tell me how I know, because I did that on the Firebird. So yeah, place this on here. Get I think Summit Racing sells these. I can't remember where I got this from, but this is an installer tool. Slide it in here, thread it on. Alright, I got this 5/16 deep socket. You can also use a 24mm. So just hammer this thing on here. Make sure it's on straight. Okay, that's pretty much, I think that's pretty much good. It's lined up to this pulley back here, so take the bolt back out. And then and just place the bolt in. Now you need to torque this to 240 foot-pounds, which is pretty insane and honestly kind of nerve-wracking when you do it too. I've done it more than once, and it's to me it's very nerve-wracking because if you do any more than that, you're gonna break this bolt and you're in big trouble now, because basically got to cut into things to get it off and weld the end of this bolt back on, and it's just gonna be a mess. So there you go, guys. That's pretty much it for this part. Okay, guys, so this is the end of the video. It is June, mid-June, kind of late June. This whole video literally has been like a month's work because, one, I'm not rich. Two, it takes time for me to save up money to build this engine. This is not easy at all to do. If it was, everybody would be doing it. Other than that, I still haven't gotten a flex plate yet. My ARP head studs are not here yet. I got my cylinder head gasket though, and I got my cylinder heads right down here, laying on the ground with 2 bags wrapped around it. They're dual valve springs from BTR. I also did a valve job on it. The springs and everything like that, freaking bug. The springs and everything like that are done. Alright, so now all I need is ARP head studs, and I can throw the gasket on there and the cylinder heads on there, and then everything else is, you know, like I've been saying 100 times before, easy, because it is. I mean, valve cover gasket, intake manifold gasket. I'm gonna put a new throttle body on there, new/used, because I'll show you. This one here is not a cable driven, it's electric driven, and I don't want that. I'm gonna go with a cable driven throttle body for the car. And by the way, it's kind of dark, so you can't really see me, so that's why I am crouching like this. That way you can see me better and see the engine. So like I said before, I think it's done, this part, at least the bottom end. Now I got to get the top end, the rest of it together. And what else? Let me show you guys here. There are a few things that I haven't mentioned earlier in the video, but these bolts are torqued to 11 foot-pounds. I hand tighten these bolts down because, I mean, 10 foot-pounds is basically your hands, literally. So you don't really need to torque these down. Like, it's nothing. If I'm wrong, just comment below the correct torque spec, but I think I looked it up. It's 10 to 11 foot-pounds. As for these, I did torque these bolts too. I was just kind of in a rush to kind of get all of this done in a month. Well, really in 2 weeks, but that 2 weeks turned into a month because I was back and forth with the engine and stuff like that. Speaking of that, I got the truck oil pan on here. Now, let me tell you a little story on that. One, the low profile slash F body oil pan was about half, almost like half an inch or maybe an inch shorter than this pan, and it went all the way up to about here. What happened was I bought it from Amazon for like $100, and when I went to put the bolts on, and I didn't crank them down, I just sat them on there. The oil pan cracked on this side, and same thing on the other side and on the back. So I'm like, crap, how in the world did that happen? Because I didn't torque these things down or crank them down like crazy. So I went ahead and got it welded and put it back on there. Well, this side got cracked, the same side that got welded cracked, and then the other side cracked too. So I was fed up at that point. I threw that pan away. I'm glad I kept this because, you know, if I didn't have this, I would have to buy a $150, $250 oil pan. So I cleaned this up already. I got a sand disc and kind of gotten rid of all the dirt and debris and the oil that was on it previously. And I put it on there, and guess what? It didn't crack. That's why it's still on the motor. So I also got this cheap oil filter. I may change that in the future, but yeah, this is what's going in the Firebird. It will fit, but you know, the pan is just going to be a little bit more dipped down, and if you're doing big wheelies or something like that, you're gonna scrape this oil pan. But other than that, I don't think I'm gonna have too much of a problem. So what else? I think that's about it. This is a brand new thermostat here. I don't know if I mentioned that in the video earlier. I got everything kind of plugged away here and there. That way nothing crawls up in it or water gets up in it. Got these little, I don't know what they're called, dials or whatever, to hold the cylinder head in place when I do put the cylinder head on. Yeah, the video is a little all over the place, but I like to let you guys know about that kind of thing because I'm a bit of a perfectionist and I want to make sure my videos are good enough for you guys and that you like my videos and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Now back to the intake manifold. I am going to be using this truck intake. I'm going to have to cut the cowl a little bit. Well, probably a lot, but I don't really care. I'm cutting the cowl because this right here, this little, what, $200, maybe even $300 intake manifold that I got with the engine that I bought from Facebook Marketplace is going to make a lot more torque than your typical flat LS1 or LS6 or LS3. Anything aluminum LS with a flat intake is going to make more torque than all of them. I'm not going to buy the fast intakes or the Hollies because that's $800-900, and then you got to get a throttle body and all this other kind of stuff, and you're well over $1,100-1,200. This will do just fine for what you need. I cannot stress that enough. If you don't have this, then the LS6 intake and the LS2 and LS3 intakes are just as good. LS1 intake, throw that away. It's just not going to do well. There's a few things that I have to change on here. Well, not change, but really cover up. I need to cover this up because we're not using the hose that runs back here or whatever for the vent tube. I'm closing this EGR off and this EGR off right there. And then obviously I'm getting injectors with it. I'm going to use the factory truck fuel rail along with the wiring harness that I have for the car. Now I got to cut the wiring to the injectors and wire on the truck style so it would work. So there's a lot more involved than some of you guys may think. And this is obviously underneath it too. I already cleaned it up except for the throttle body because I'm getting rid of it. But anyways, that's it for this video. If y'all like this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. Greatest hits, more like this to come, and other videos. I do have a daily driver, which is a 98 Honda CRV, so I'm going to do like a little review on that, slash whatever. I'm going to show you all that. Other than that, guys, just tell a friend to tell a friend, watch my videos, try to get me to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, because that would be great. That's pretty much it. Greatest hits out.